All right, good afternoon, folks. We're here live at Billy Taylor Park in Providence. Governor Raimondo expected, amongst other things, to announce an executive order in which she will mandate state documents, websites, citations, so on and so forth, to remove the Providence Plantations aspect of the name. So again, if you're just tuning in here live, Billy Taylor Park, Governor Raimondo, any moment now, going to take the stage. And this, of course, the second appearance by the governor this afternoon, her 1 o'clock COVID presser. You can watch that anytime in the Facebook group if you want to go back and watch it. No major announcements today. The biggest one being that Rhode Island has surpassed 20% testing at 200,000. But right now, just a few moments, again, Governor Raimondo with a package of social justice action. There, including removing Providence Plantations from official documents and websites here in Rhode Island. Now, this is not changing the name of the state. This is not an executive order to change the name of the state. It's simply just the forward-facing aspects of the state from a business perspective. Changing the name of the state, that'll come down to the voters this fall. But here she is, Billy Taylor Park in Providence. Governor Raimondo, stand by in just a few moments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you. Like one sound check back there. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Wamazetta Jones, and I am very blessed to serve as our State Secretary of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. Here's what I can tell you all about myself and my family. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. It's very important to say which part of Chicago. South side of Chicago. I grew up in a big family that taught me the importance of taking care of each other and taking care of our community. And I've been very blessed to raise 3 beautiful children, a son and 2 daughters. Now here's what I cannot tell you about my family. Because of the horrors of slavery, my family's history is unknown further back than my great-grandparents. My ancestors could have arrived in this country through Newport or other parts of this state that played leading roles in the transatlantic slave trade. I believe personally in strengthening and supporting families and fighting against all manners of injustice. This is at the very core of who I am, and that's thanks to my faith, my culture, and my family. Everybody has already heard me say it. I'm going to say it again. My grandmother is it. She is the core of who I am. I am proud to serve the state of Rhode Island, and I bring these core values to the work that I do each and every day. But racism and oppression still exist, and it persists, even here in Rhode Island. The word plantations is literally in the name of the state, and that blew my mind when I saw that first paycheck stub. Whether we're talking about Rhode Island's shameful history in the slave trade or the horrific deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and other Black people that has catalyzed our state and our nation, the time has long since passed for our government and other systems to address the injustices that people of color face every single day in all types of unacceptable and hateful ways, whether they be through direct racism, microaggressions, pick the phrase, but faced every single day. I want to thank our governor, Governor Raimondo, for bringing us together today with a call to action, to rise together. We need to address the inequities that people of color in Rhode Island face in our criminal justice system, health system, housing, employment, education, accessing just your basic services that you need to help grow a strong and healthy family, and to heal from the systemic historic racism. I'm proud to work for a governor who wants to truly listen, to truly learn and understand. Our framework for promoting equity across government focuses on representation and voice, police and criminal justice reform, healing and economic resiliency, but it starts with leading by example. No policies or initiatives are quickly going to undo over 400 years of historic systemic racism. It's time for all of us to work together in ways we never have before. And as Secretary of the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, a Rhode Island resident, a Black woman, and most importantly, a mother who's raising a Black son and 2 Black daughters, I plan to do everything in my power to assist the governor in ensuring that these initiatives are followed through on and that our communities of color have the opportunity to fully engage in this process. I will use my voice and I will speak up. I will definitely be fierce, determined, brave, and I call on every person in Rhode Island to do the same. Don't be afraid. Please use your voice. Thank you very much for being here this afternoon, and I now have the pleasure to introduce Governor Raimondo, who is without a doubt brave, fierce, determined, smart, and I know for a fact committed to eliminating racism, injustice, and bringing people together so everyone's voice can be heard. So I thank you and welcome Governor Raimondo.
I don't know, can you see me? This is so high, these microphones.
No, we can't. Some of the elders can't see you because all of the cameras.
I know, and all this.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you all for being here.
There you go, ignoring everybody.
Thank you for coming. And thank you, Womazetta, for that kind introduction and for all the work that you do in my administration and for your lifelong commitment to racial justice. I'm very happy to be here. It's wonderful for me to look around the crowd and see so many friends and people who've been fighting their whole lives for racial justice. So thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you to the Treasurer for being here, Chairwoman Williams for being here, Senator Metz, Chairman Miller, Rep. McKiernan, Rep. Poe I saw back there, Senator Quesada, thank you for being here, Senator Kano, Rep. Kislak, Rep. Ranglin Vassal. I think we saw Senator Golden. I saw Whit Blazajewski, who's here. I want to thank you all for being here, members of my administration who are, I think, and is Nerva here? I know. Yeah, there you go. She represents this district. Thank you all to being here, and I want to thank members of my team. Colonel Manny is here, thank you, and I want to thank Reverend Howard Jenkins for joining us. And we have a special young woman with us today, Faith Kania. Faith she's going to be a senior at Central High School. She's 16 years old. I called her recently because she was one of the organizers and leaders of the big march and protest with 10,000 folks at the State House. Give her a hand. I called her to thank her for her leadership and to tell her that I think she's a naturally born leader with a lot of gifts and talents, and I encouraged her to go far in this life. And I said to her, a girl 17, 18 years old who did what you did, and she interrupted me and said, Miss, I'm 16. So God bless you. 16. Mayor Lorza, I didn't recognize you, the great Mayor Lorza. So Faith and all the young people who are here, we're counting on you guys. We're trying. We make a lot of mistakes, And I'm putting my faith in the young people to keep us honest and to keep going. And that's part of the reason we wanted to be here at a park. So I want to thank you, all of you, for joining us here at the Billy Taylor Park. I will tell you, I've logged hundreds of hours right there on that jungle gym with my kids. For whatever reason, this was always their favorite place to come. And it's also a recognition for Billy Taylor, who was a local leader right in this neighborhood, helping families one kid at a time. Helping kids, one kid at a time, kids who didn't know life outside of this neighborhood. And he helped to get them a job, get to go to a summer camp, took them on trips, encouraged them to pursue their education, helped them get a job. And so we thought it was fitting to come here to focus on our youth and to focus on the fact that every person deserves a chance. Every single person deserves a chance, regardless of the neighborhood they're from or the color of their skin. So, as I've said so many times, my experience of racism is an observed experience. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to walk in the shoes of a black woman, or certainly a black man, a black person, and I don't know what it's like to myself be the victim of discrimination and racism. But I do know it's wrong, and I do know I've worked hard as your governor for 6 years to do what I can to eliminate racism and discrimination in our state, and I do know we have a lot more to do. And anybody who watches the video of George Floyd, which is so hard to watch, anyone who watches that video, who sees and is confronted by the abuse and discrimination that people of color in our country face every day, knows there's more to do and we have to act with urgency. And today, I'm going to take a page out of Secretary Jones's book and agree with her that we need to lead by example. So today I am once again pledging my support to remove Providence Plantations from our state's name. Now, there's a lot of people out there, because I've heard from them, who say to me, they will point out to me, Governor, this is our official name, it's a part of our history, and the word plantations in the Rhode Island and Providence Plantations doesn't explicitly refer to slavery and the slavery that happened on plantations. It was, as you all know, in reference to the mainland colony founded by Roger Williams, as distinct from Newport and Aquidneck Island. And they say, what do you say about that? I say, you're right, that's true. But here's what I also say. We can't ignore the image conjured by the word plantations. We can't ignore how painful that is for Black Rhode Islanders to see that and have to see that as part of their state's name.
Demoralizing.
It's demoralizing. It's demoralizing. It's a slap in the face. It's painful. It's a pain. It's a painful thing. So yes, you know, we have to acknowledge our history. It's true. But we can acknowledge our history without elevating a phrase that's so deeply associated with the ugliest time in our state and in our country's history.
Go on.
That is a word that is associated with the ugliest institution that our country has ever had. So that's why I think it's past time, actually, to get rid of it. And I have said, people say to me, well, because I've been, pledging my support now for weeks, and people say, but Governor, I'm proud of our name. And I say, well, you can be proud of Rhode Island, but don't be proud of that. Don't be proud of a word that represents the worst of what our nation had to offer. Be proud of what the best in Rhode Island. And as we've said, we need to rise together. Be proud of the fact that our state was founded by someone who believed in inclusion. And that word inclusion means everybody. And it means we have to do more. And I want to recognize Senator Metz, who's here. The Senate has already passed legislation to put the name change on the ballot. And I want to, so thank you, and thank you to the Senate. And I want to recognize Rep. Williams, who's advocating for the same in the House, and we hope you get that done. And I hope it gets on the ballot, and I'm going to work hard with you this summer to convince the people of Rhode Island in November to vote for the name change. The last time it was on the ballot, it went down. So let's get it on the ballot, and let's call on the good people of Rhode Island to put an end to this in November and make a statement for the world to see. No more in Rhode Island. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to do what Secretary Jones said and lead by example. So I'm taking steps to remove the phrase plantations from my administration's communications. So this morning, I signed an executive order removing the phrase Providence Plantations from gubernatorial orders and citations, all executive branch agency websites, all official correspondence, and state employee pay stubs and paychecks. That's what I can do via executive order. So I'm going to do that without waiting. And then let's get this on the ballot and let's get this done in November, because words do matter. Words matter, words hurt, words sting, symbols matter. And as I said, it's past time to do this. I want to acknowledge Mayor Alorza. He did a similar thing last week with the official City of Providence documents. And I want to acknowledge Treasurer Magaziner, who's committed to removing the word plantations from the state checks. As the treasurer, he's the man with the money and the paycheck, and the checks. And I'll tell you something. As I said, because my experience of racism is observed and not lived, I spend a lot of time listening to people. I have done that since I've been governor, but especially in these past few weeks, I've really doubled down on my commitment to listening, really listening. And I've talked to a lot of Black Rhode Islanders of all ages. Let me tell you what they say to me. They say, you know, Governor, I did good work and I received citations from the state of my good work, recognizing what I did. But the citation says Providence Plantations. And I don't want to put that on my wall because I don't want to have to see that. So when I got my citation for my good work, I hide it in the drawer because I'm not putting something on my wall that has the word plantation. That hurts when I hear people say that. Or people who say, as Wilma Zetta just said, it stings a little bit every time she gets her paycheck. Now, she needs the paycheck, we all do, so she puts it in the bank. But why does she have to see that horrible, ugly word that conjures up images of slavery every time she gets her check? So to those Rhode Islanders who are wondering why we're doing this and thinking it denies our history, that's why. That's why. Because we have members of our community who shouldn't have to feel that sense of hurt and pain and grief every time they get a paycheck or see the name of their state or get a citation from a governor or legislator. You shouldn't have to get that stinging message. So that's why, because you're part of our community too. Now, same thing, same idea, same thing. So I also, bear with me for a few more minutes because I'm announcing a few other things. Several other additional steps that we're taking as part of the Rise Together vision for rooting out racism and bias in our institutions here in the state of Rhode Island. Additionally, to what I just said, the executive order, getting rid of the word plantations, I've directed the state's Department of Administration to issue mandatory implicit bias training for all state employees to build a plan for more comprehensive equity training. Let's be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we don't even recognize our bias. We're blind to it. We have a blind, we're not aware. So everyone's going to get this training, so we're a little bit more aware in executive office employees. Secondly, the Colonel of the State Police is here, Jim Manny. I've asked the Colonel to form a community outreach team that will engage community leaders about how the state police can better serve communities. And I want to thank you, Jim, for your leadership. I've also tasked Colonel Manny with developing a plan and exploring grants and other funding resources to equip the Rhode Island State Police troopers with body cameras, building on our existing efforts to increase accountability within the department. Now, I know you're going to say that's not enough, and I'm going to agree with you, but it's a step, and both of those are important steps to move in the right direction. And I want to single out Rep. Williams on this, it's time to reform our law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights. And you have my full support, Anastasia, on that. To ensure that officers have a greater level of accountability to the citizens that they serve. Transparency and accountability. And here's another important thing. You know, I don't in any way want to minimize police brutality on the basis of race. I don't. But it isn't just that. It's about jobs and housing and education and economic equality. And so when I became governor, one of the things that I looked at was how little business the state did with minority-owned businesses. Vendors still do, but let me tell you what we've done. Since I've been governor, we focused on increasing the number of businesses that the state, minority-owned businesses that the state does business with. I'm proud to say that we've seen a 60% increase in the number of registered MBE businesses and a more than tripling of the work that the state awards to minority-owned businesses. But still, we need to do more. I'll be the first to agree with you, Joe. We need to do more. I'm proud of the doubling. I'm proud of the tripling, but let's do more. So I'm announcing that we are also going to conduct a comprehensive study called the Disparity Study of all state contracting practices to ensure that minority-owned businesses have an equal shot at procurement opportunities. This is the first of its kind study in the state of Rhode Island in nearly 30 years. And it is an important step to doing more to make sure that there is no discrimination on the basis of gender or race in the way the state does business, and to look for ways to give opportunity to minority-owned businesses. And I'll be the first to say there's a long way to go. In addition to what I said, it's also healthcare. We have to address racial disparities in our healthcare system, which has taken on a whole new urgency during COVID. We need to provide job training and educational opportunities to people of color. Some of you here helped me get past a few years ago the Promise program, 2 years of community college, tuition free. We've had that. We have seen an increase in the on-time graduation rate among students of color of 500%. Wow. 500%. These are kids who are smart, who want a chance. Maybe they don't have a lot of money. And as I've always said, the hardest part of college shouldn't be paying for it. They don't want a handout. They want a chance to get a diploma and a decent job. And I want your continued support for that program. It's set to expire this year, and we got to re-up it so kids can continue to get a chance. It is violence in the police department, but it is housing, education, infrastructure, healthcare, jobs, opportunity. It's equity across everything that we do. That's what we're here to pledge. Action against an agenda of equity.
Do you see the Providence?
Here's the last thing I'll say. None of this is going to happen overnight.
That would have been a good start.
And I'll be the first to say there's been more we could have done and more we need to do still. But I do know this. Now, with what we're living through as a nation, as a state and as a nation, it's a moment. It's a moment we have to take advantage of to drive action. It's a moment that people's eyes are open again to the reality of racism, how real and present and hurtful that it is. And it's on all of us, every one of you here and myself included, to recommit ourselves today to doing the work that is necessary to build a more equitable and fair Rhode Island. And so that's what I'm here today to tell you what I'm doing via executive order, but also what I hope that we will do together as a community. So, with that, I want to ask you to join me in giving a very warm welcome to a woman. Watch this woman. She could be your governor someday. She could be your president someday. But I know she's going to make big change. Please join me in welcoming Faith to the podium.
Hello everyone, my name is Faith. I want to thank God and my mom for being here today. For those who may not know me, sorry guys, I was one of the organizers that led what has been called one of the most historical protests in Rhode Island, which was attended by approximately 10,000 supporters.
All right.
Yeah! Standing here today, I'm overwhelmed with happiness. Not only did the youth lead a monumental, peaceful demonstration in hopes of highlighting a desire for change, but we made a difference. Just look what's happening around us. This is what we wanted. This is what gives me hope to continue. Knowing our voices were heard and respected is a different kind of joy. Sorry. I'm proud to stand here and say I participated in the difference. I'm also here to say I encourage all youth to join me because it doesn't end here. This is only the beginning. This is just a small taste of what victory looks like.
That's right.
So please join me on my next project to get Rhode Island to add Black history into the educational curriculum. What I mean by this is a global perspective on Blackness and education about Black America from periods other than slavery and civil rights movement. Governor, I humbly ask if you will be willing to assist in this endeavor. With the support of Governor Raimondo, not only will it impact the Rhode Island Department of Education and Curriculum Developers' decisions, but it can make this a reality. If you agree and need more information or want to help, I encourage you go to change.org, change.org, and search Teach Black History Rhode Island. There, you can sign a petition and read more about why this is an important cause. Yes. Thank you, Governor Raimondo and the state of Rhode Island for having me here. Now I'm going to hand the floor to Senator Metz.
Thank you, Faith. You give me faith in our next generation, present generation, and we thank God for it. I'm just going to say what my deacon said, to God be the glory. Yes. Great things he has done. Yes. So this isn't about Senator Metz. I'm here with my state representative who represents my family, me and my family, Representative Williams. We've been fighting this battle a long time. But something we get from our ancestors, they had long suffering because they knew that better days were coming by and by for the future generations. And I want to give you a little bit of my history. A lot of people know my father's Cape Verdean, but my mother's from Virginia. Her family's from Virginia. I was born in Virginia. I can remember leaving the train from Rhode Island to go see our family near Charlottesville, and I was 5 years old. And I can remember when the train got to Washington, D.C., below the Mason-Dixon line, that all the colored people, as they called us back then, had to get off the train from Rhode Island, and we all had to get on the train with the other colored people. You know, 5 years old, I still can remember that. And then, if you ever come by my house, I'll show you a rocking chair that looks like it's handmade, that my great aunt gave me. It's from Grandma Alice Wood, my grandmother's great grandmother. So when she was a little girl, Aunt Bertha told me, Aunt Bertha passed when she was 106. She was riding on a horse. They were Native Americans with her father, and the settlers, the white settlers shot him, and he got managed to get a couple of arrows off. But she was a little girl, and he slapped the horse that she was on, and the horse kept riding. And when it got tired and thirsty, it pulled into the Speck Plantation near Charlottesville. And when she became of age, they named her to one of their slaves. They married her to one of their slaves named Benjamin Wood. So when you hear Crozet, Virginia, and Whitehall, Virginia, Reverend Wood and I, that was formerly here at the Pond Street Second Free Will Baptist Church, we're distant cousins. So I know a little bit from my family history because Aunt Bertha made sure that I knew about the family history. So certainly I want to commend Faith for wanting to know more about the history, because the only thing I knew about history coming up in junior high school, Gilbert Stewart Junior High School, they had 2 paragraphs. One, it was about Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves. That was it. So certainly, I want to thank all my colleagues in government. I have Senator Quesada, who signs all my bills. If no one else has signed my bills, I have my senator with me. And Senator Miller's here, Senator Kano, and I think Senator Golden's here. So, and certainly all our colleagues in government. Mayor, thank you so much. But Governor, I want to just commend you, because removing the hurtful word plantations from the official stationery, that's something. Because I used to feel the hurt. I was talking with Representative Williams about that just a little bit earlier. Here I am at some youth function, and I'm reading citations in the state of Rhode Island, and I skip the Providence Plantations because it's an embarrassment to me, and it's very hurtful to me because I know some Black history. And I'm also pleased, Senate President Ruggiero, he asked me to announce that and he said he talked to Speaker Mattiello, that they're going to do plantations from all our stationery too. Now, last week, I submitted, as I've done for the past 7-10 years, the Juneteenth resolution about the emancipation of the slaves and how it took 2.5 years to get to Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Arizona. And now, all through the resolution, the stationery that it was printed on, the irony was it had Providence Plantations on that. And here's a resolution talking about people being free from slavery. So what irony? What irony? So the past may be the past, however, we must make amends. And it has to be made now and for the future. We cannot let remembrances of slavery and the legacy of inequities and systematic racism that are left be the psychological need in the necks of our children. That's what it is. No history. You're robbing kids. It's bad enough that their ancestors was robbed of their culture and their language. But now there's no history. You know, me, when I was you go into a store, the store detective used to follow you around the store. Sometimes you get stopped for no reason. And I'm very, people, sometimes my wife thinks I'm very sensitive. Before the COVID, when we did go to a restaurant, don't let the maitre d' sit me near the kitchen or near the bathroom. I want a good table like everybody else. So it's just indignities. They kind of brush them off. You brush them off, but they build up on you because we want justice and equality just like anyone else.
That's right.
And Faith, I want to share something with you. How embarrassed I was years ago when I was in the House, and I got invited by the Newport Branch NAACP to their annual celebration of the first black regiment in Rhode Island. Never heard about it. Many times as I've been to Newport, I rode past the monument, never knew it was there. And then until the Newport Branch NAACP and others got together and put a decent monument there, and people don't know it. During the Revolutionary War, the capital of Rhode Island was in Newport. And the British hired Hessian soldiers, and they told the Narragansett Indians that were slaves and the Africans that were slaves, if you fight for the state of Rhode Island, we'll set you free. And they won the battle and they saved the state of Rhode Island. And we have a lot more examples like that. But how embarrassing it was for me, being of African American heritage, not knowing how important, since the Revolutionary War, the contributions that our people have made to this country.
And this state, especially.
And this state, thank you.
Yes.
And this city.
Yes.
So those are the things. It's the psychological oppression that has the knee on us that we're trying to get off. We're tired of it. We're tired of it. And you know,
How tired are you?
like Fannie Lou Hamer, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So Plantations has got to go, and our country and state needs healing. I don't want to forget that part, because if you're not careful, you'll let the negativity of the years and what you have to face consume you, and I don't want to be consumed about it. So I keep repeating to myself Romans 12:21, be not overcome of evil, overcome evil with good. I keep that in my head because the healing we have to fight, but we have to have healing to go along with it. And to correct 45, it's love, not hate, that will make America great. And Governor, I just want to add a couple more things. I thank you for the initiative that you're taking. The MBE program, when we started at Representative Williams will tell you, when we started it years ago, in Massachusetts, they had a staff of over a dozen people that worked in that office to go out into the field, to check the numbers, to make sure that there were minorities working. And what they did here in our state, they cut the staffing down to 1.5 people, which made it impossible to do the job. So the MBE office has to be adequately funded and staffed. There's another bill, a constitutional amendment that we've been trying for years, is to add the word equity to the Constitution. Massachusetts, someone sued in their court years ago, and their judicial system told them to put more money in education. Now everybody uses Massachusetts. They use Massachusetts as an example of the type of educational system we want. They tried it in Rhode Island, and our court threw the case out because there's no equity language in our Constitution. So myself, Senator Quesada, Senator Picard, we've been trying to get the word equity into our state constitution so we can have a decent educational system for our kids too. Tell me about it, Joe. And the other thing is, it may seem like a small piece of legislation to a lot of people. You know, we put in a lot of legislation. There's the asset forfeiture law. If I live next door to Senator Quesada and I'm a drug dealer and they go into her house by mistake and she has $1,000 hid underneath the mattress, and then they throw the case out because they went to the wrong house, she can't get the money back.
What?
She can't get the money back. She's got to jump through a whole lot of hoops with law enforcement, and then if you hire a lawyer, what happens to that $1,000? So if you're found innocent and they throw your case out, your property and your money should go back automatically. So there's many other examples, and I really do think we need the mandatory bias training and the equity training and all this other stuff. But we're really going to have to stay prayerful because only God can change the hearts of people. We can put in all the legislation that we want. And so those of us that know how to pray, keep it up on the up and up because it's going to take God himself to change the hearts of people so that we'll become the people, because he said, be not overcome with evil, overcome evil with good. And by this shall all men know you're my disciples if you have love one for the other. So thank you for all your dedication and your support during this process. God bless you. Keep up the hard work because we can't do it alone.
Mr. Metz, can I cross out Plantations right here?
It's not my material.
Plantations, you want to
I just noticed that. She's right.
She's right.
Go ahead, brother.
It's
Without
gone.
further ado, it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce my state representative, Anastasia Williams.
Look, take a look.
Can't see.
Just wanted you to read it. For good reason. To God belongs the glory today because this is definitely a step. But we need to see a step in what direction. I know that some of you present here today have heard sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But guess what? Names will certainly and have hurt me and hurt all of us. Plantation. You hear that word and it brings you back. Without your TV being turned on, it brings you back to a time of oppression, of lynching, of cotton picking, of terrible times. So I am honored to be here today with all of you. I am honored to be here with Governor Raimondo. I am honored to be here with my colleagues in government to finally prepare, because some of you are here believing and feeling that this is a celebration. I take this, I carry this, I believe this to be a preparation towards reparation. Many people don't believe it, maybe because they don't understand it. But realistically, that's okay. Some have said 400 years cannot be addressed overnight. I challenge that. I challenge it because things can be done overnight if it's for the best reason, for good reason. It can be done. It's been said that individuals observe racism. Yeah, but it's a difference when you live it. To observe it, that means you condone it. And it's been said that we're going to listen to what's being said. What have you been doing for the last 400 plus years? Listening. I want to be heard. I want you to understand what I'm saying. That my feelings, my experience, my struggle is real. Yes, it is. It is real. We are part of this community. We are part of a community. We are part of Rhode Island. Yes, we are. Because people of color built Rhode Island. So we are part of Rhode Island. Better yet, we are Rhode Island. It's been also said it's on all of us. But you know what? It's always on us. When is it going to become fear? And the meaning, the word of it's on all of us, realistically, is in fact about all of us. I'm waiting. My grandfather and his sisters lived right on Cypress Street. My grandfather, Paul Cardoza Sr., was my mentor. 97 years old. A great man. A great family. Solid foundation. Integrity, courage, and loyalty. That's what runs through my blood. Black history is American history.
Yes. Yes.
It should have been part of our curriculum from the beginning. We should not have had to legislate it to make sure that it's in our classrooms. So we still should not have to request, because if you're teaching history, black history is American history. Every person deserves a chance. Absolutely. We have worked it. We deserve it. We have proven it. And it's been said, work hard, do the right thing, and you will succeed. We have worked our fingers to the bone. We have tried repeatedly to succeed, and we still don't get that chance. When we talk about mandatory bias training, I'm all for it, because none of us is too old to learn. None of us. However, if we must continue to train the same oppressors over and over and over again to teach them that what they're doing and saying is wrong, something is drastically wrong. It's not the training, it's the people. And it's the people that's condoning those people.
That's right.
Community outreach. You know, we have some excellent black, brown, yellow, and others in our community, in our cities, and in this state that have been dismissed, pushed away, ignored, and let me tell you, they got it going on. They got talent that you can't find nowhere else. Right here in our state, right here in our city, right here in some of our homes.
That's right.
So, outreach, pick up the phone, baby. You know a person that knows a person that knows a person? I got lists. I got many lists of names of individuals who have applied repeatedly, but unfairly been bypassed. That must stop. Reform the Bill of Rights. Yeah, I put it in. My colleague in the Senate, Senator Ana Casada, is the co-sponsor of that bill on the Senate side. Listen, there's a reason for every season. And that bill is not to study, but it's to change. We don't need no more study. We have been studied, we've been injected, we've been dissected, we have been beaten, and we have been murdered. How much more studying do we need? So that bill is in for some action.
I hope so.
Action to make a change where it needs to go. We have to make sure that we become the change that we are talking about. This must.
If you want change, become the change that you want to see. So that change that I wanted to see on behalf of my people in the state of Rhode Island is in. Is in. We don't need a study commission of any kind to sit down and report back in February or in May that this is the problem. We know what the problems are. Are you ready to change those problems?
Yes.
Are you ready for it to be now?
Yes.
Then keep your eyes open because July's coming. That legislation is in as of last Wednesday. That's change, that's action, and we're going to need you to come and express how serious you are for the changes. It's online. You can look it up, get familiar with it. You can add suggestions. I'm open for it all. I am not perfect, but let me tell you, I'm a warrior. I am a peacemaker, but I war and I for justice. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. I believe in being part of the solution. And we have many solutions. The governor, my colleague in government, we battle, but she's got solutions too. She has solutions. The treasurer, he has solutions. But you know what? It took the death of George Floyd for people to say, oh, Rhode Island, we got a problem. No, Rhode Island, we have had a problem for a long time.
Day one.
Long time. Joe Almeida, Representative Joseph Almeida, put in this bill 10 years ago. 10 years ago. And here it is, a whole decade later. Dr. Ruth Simmons came to Rhode Island at Brown University. President, dynamite, intelligent, beautiful, powerful woman. And she uncovered, she took all the covers off of the racism and started labeling, started exposing, started presenting, started showing all of what we had to empower us to take it over and change it. And a decade later, we are still here looking for someone else to do the job. Are you really ready for change?
Yes.
This is an opportunity. This is a season. We have the reasons. So we have to utilize this time. I don't want to hear that we're going to do and it can't be done overnight. Honey, many things are done overnight.
That's right.
In that state house, many things are done overnight.
That's right.
So nobody here who has the power to make the change that needs to happen is going to tell me that it can't, will not happen overnight. What I am going to tell each and every one of you, if you're ready, see, I stay ready. That takes away time from me having to get ready. As a strong woman of color, I have to stay ready because I have to make sure that I watch my back, my front, my top, my bottom, my ins and outs.
Right.
And that is because of all the isms that is oppressing us. A lot of people don't like my boldness, but guess what? God made me this way. I was born this way, baby. And I didn't like it at one point, but you know what? I embrace it. Because when you speak truth, people ain't gonna like you.
That's right. That's right.
But at the end of the day, as long as it's truth, you don't have to worry about nothing. Nothing. You don't have to worry about what did I say, what can't remember who I said it to. My record speaks for itself.
I love her.
My allies are the same ones that I had
back then that I have today. Equity contracts, COVID-19, $1.25 billion. Billion dollars. I would love to be able to go to Target and get me some shopping done with that. But all jokes aside, that was a moment for all of our minority contractors in the state of Rhode Island to be able to benefit right here in their home state. That was an opportunity for everyone, big and small, that has a business here in the state of Rhode Island for which they pay their taxes, that have to travel to Massachusetts in order to get employment, and we can get it right here. Missed out on that opportunity because a waiver instantaneously can't do something overnight. Well, that was, honey, that was immediately. A waiver where they did not have to contract any minority contractors. Imagine. I know because I got the paperwork on that. One contractor, almost $900 million. $34 million to some of our minority contractors. That would have been a lot of scroll for them to have been benefiting to this date. We don't have a second bite to that apple. That apple is chewed up and ate up, and it's gone. We as a people, as a black and brown community, as our Native American community, must unite. We must stop being the weakest link. We must stand and demand what's ours. And I'm not saying that it's not yours, because it is. What I'm saying is you need to organize, you need to mobilize, and you need to strategize. Yes. Because see, as Senator Metz said, I agree, we can't do it alone. That's right. But one thing for sure, you can look up my pages, you can look up my record, and you will see it. What I have been doing, and I could not and have not done it alone. See, when I come to the table, I know what I bring at this table. I know when I come through the door, people only see me. But when I come through a room, I'm not alone. I know when I sit at a table, I know what I bring to it. When I leave, you know how we like to have our doggy bags. I know I'm leaving with my doggy bag. And I'm not talking about a personal gain doggy bag. I'm talking about my people, my community, my city, my state doggy bag. My record will reflect that. Having been victorious with many things, because many knees have been on my necks also. Not for 9 minutes, but for many years. So that contract stuff, that bidding stuff, listen, out of that money that's there, you better start claiming it. I know what's there. You better start getting aware of what's there and what you need and claim it. Call your elected official, your state elected official, your senators, and your representatives. Don't be afraid to ask the question. Many of us are like, I don't know. Listen, you know how to pay that cell phone bill. If you don't know the number, ask Siri. She will answer it. She'll get it for you. It's less work than it used to be. And you have that tool right in your hand. This disparity study, there are many studies with many data that has been done throughout the years. What's the problem with these studies? They have not reported back like they should, and we're going to 2015. The judicial system, we're supposed to have had a study about the stops that were being done to minority black men and black folks on the street. Call and see if you can get that study. Call the State House and ask, what's their latest one? Trust me, if they tell you 2017, that's because they caught up. But you can bet your bottom dollar they're not up to date. That's how much they value us. They don't have to get it done. But you be late with your taxes and see what they do to you. You know, in order for us, and I speak for me, right here, to rise together, we need to heal first. And for me, the healing process starts with opportunities. And those opportunities don't have to be studied. Those opportunities don't have to be figured out. Those opportunities, the same way that they have them all set out for those individuals that they value, can be reversed, can be expanded, can be shared. Period. 400 years is a long time. But even longer than that is where our ancestors suffered. I'm here today to say, Governor Raimondo, thank you for what you have done. It's not, for me, a step, but it's a preparation. And I know, because I know, and you know I know, there is a lot that we can do together, and it would please the whole black, brown, indigenous, LGBTQ, everybody, including the Caucasian community that's been benefiting for years without us, including them. If you would, in fact, put all of what you said in action, opposed to, we're going to study, we're going to train, we're going to talk. Action. I know that you have some excellent staff people in your staff. Not all of them. Let me tell you 3 that I need to mention. Stephen Kavanaugh, you talk about a ride or die. That's one of the governor's staff person. Ride or die. Okay? We have David Ortiz, the peacemaker, needs the credit. These are individuals that you don't see. They're not in the front, but they're doing a great job. And then you have Daniel Carmen. He's the bridge builder. So it's not as though the staff is not available. It's not as though the individuals are not intelligent to know how we can put all these words into action. That's what needs to happen now. This is the season, and we have all the reason for those things to be put in action now. No more. For me, it's no more. So I'm leaving it up to each and every one of you to join the governor to rise together with this vision to change the equity and justice that has been plaguing the community of color for decades. Mentioning schools, contracts, employment, health, housing, to name a few. If you're in it to win it, you gotta put the fire to the governor, and I'm sure she's willing, and if she ain't ready, she's gotta get ready.
Woo! Go ahead.
Because if you're serious, and respectfully being said, if you all are serious, if you've had enough and you want real change instead of lip service and all this plagiarism, let's rise together. Let's knock it off of all this talk. Let's do it realistically together. It's about inclusion, and if it's really about inclusion in the state of Rhode Island, we must make that change. Period. Thank you all.
I can't tell you how long I've been waiting to take that mask off. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to the entire community for coming out, not just today, but a few days ago, for these important steps that we're taking as a community, as a city, and as a state. I want to recognize the governor. Thank you, Governor, for taking this courageous step. We know that 10 years ago, when this was put to the voters, it failed pretty bad. That means that statewide, it is an unpopular thing to do, but it is the right thing to do, and because of that, I give you all the credit, Governor. I also want to recognize our colleagues that you just heard from, Senator Metz and Representative Williams. They have been fighting this fight for us for years upon years upon years, and I am so happy and so proud that you have carried the baton for us, and you have helped bring us to this moment. I'll try to be brief. As I sat here reminiscing and thinking about these last 3 months, I personally have had this range and roller coaster of emotions. We've been cooped up inside of the house. There was the fear and the anxiety of the pandemic and the virus, and is it going to get us, and are we safe? Finally, after a couple of months, things start to ease up. And I remember hearing throughout the day, maybe about a month ago, about another instance of police brutality in Minneapolis. And so I didn't have a chance to get to it throughout the day, but as soon as I got home, I turned on my computer. I went online and I had to watch the video that people were talking about. And I think I had the same range of emotions that everybody had. Curious at first. And you watch the man being dragged into the car, then dragged out of the car, and then more officers come. The officer places his knee on the man's back and neck. The man continues to say, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." My wife was in the other room, hearing that I was watching the video. She had already watched it. She started crying and told me to turn it off. I couldn't turn it off because I had to watch it. I heard George Floyd cry out for his mama. And then you hear him cry out his last breaths, saying, "I can't breathe." I think that everybody here, everyone in the world who watched that video, was filled with anger, indignation, sadness. Our hearts cried. And so, quite appropriately, throughout the country, there's been this outcry. People taking to the streets, raising more and more awareness of the injustices. Everyone who watches that video saw that that man was murdered. But also, everyone who watched that video knows that this is not an isolated event. This is not a one-off. But this is part of a systematic. This is part of a culture. This is part of something that's deep-rooted inside our society that led to George Floyd's death. And so I'll tell you, that range of emotion, makes you reflect on how terrible our country's treatment of African Americans has been for over 400 years. And it's still that way.
That's right.
And so when you're at that level of emotions and you see the anger in the streets, I think we were all worried to see where this was going to go. But I'll tell you, the place of emotions that I'm at right now, I could not be more optimistic for the future and for this moment of change than I am right now, than we all are right now. And this is all on the shoulders of the leaders who have come before us and have carried that baton. But we got to give credit where it's due. So much of the recent efforts have been because of folks like Faith and the young people of this country that have stood up and have become the leaders of today and not the leaders of tomorrow. And they have opened up this window of opportunity for real change in our community that frankly I haven't seen perhaps in my lifetime. And that weight of responsibility isn't taken lightly. Every generation has its moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment. That window of opportunity for change is open for us right now. And now the only question is, what are we going to do with this opportunity that we have before us? Are we going to talk? Are we going to take half steps? Or are we going to take action? And are we going to be bold? I, for one, want to take action, and I want to be bold, and I know you do as well. We're talking about going far beyond police brutality and systemic racism inside of policing. We're talking about changing the life trajectory of a young black child that's born already having trouble breathing with higher levels of asthma, born into segregated neighborhoods, more likely to get lead poisoning, then going to schools at underperforming schools that don't prepare them for the real world. Then when they go older, they're suspended at higher rates, and it starts the pipeline, school to prison pipeline. And then they look for a job, and they're turned away simply because they have a black sounding name on their resume. And so injustice upon injustice upon injustice has been the course that so many black families have had to suffer through in our country. And we have the opportunity to change that course right now. So because of all of you, because of our young people, and because of all the folks that are ready for bold action, this range of emotions has brought me to this point where I am optimistic about our future. The baton is in our hands. Let's make the most of this opportunity, and let's make sure we have systemic change that comes to our community, to our state, to our country, and to our society today. Thank you, everyone, and let's continue this fight.
It all comes down to the ballot boxes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabina Matos. I'm the president of the Providence City Council. But I'm here standing on the shoulder of the people that came before me. I'm a black woman, a black immigrant woman, but I would like to honor the people that have been fighting this fight for the longest time, and I would like to ask Deputy Majority Leader Harris to join me here, please. Deputy Majority Leader Harris has been fighting this fight for the longest time. I want to say thank you to the governor for taking this step. That is way overdue. Thank you. You have been fighting this fight. I came here 26 years ago. People in Rhode Island still think that I'm an outsider. But let me tell you, I'm here because of you. Thank you. So thank you for what you have done.
Thank you so much.
We're not supposed to hug. And with that, I would like to introduce another colleague of mine in the Providence City Council, Councilwoman Nervella Fortune, her and I have much in common than what you can imagine. We're two black women. We come from the same island. She immigrated as a little girl and immigrated as an adult. And it's an honor for me to work with her in the Providence City Council. Councilwoman Nervella Fortune.
Thank you, Council President. And thank you, when you're tall, it's a great thing, but sometimes when it's time to adjust the microphone is always a problem. All right. There we have it. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you, Council President. Thank you also for acknowledging the work of our ancestors before us, acknowledging the work of the Councilwoman Harris. Thank you, Rep. Williams. And you said, you said something very powerful about your courage. And I want to remind you and everyone that the courage that you have is the same courage that enabled Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, to lead people to freedom and also to fight for to fight to abolish slavery. It is the same courage that that led Shirley Chisholm to say, if you don't have a seat at the table for me, I'm going to bring my folding chair. So I thank you. I thank you for your advocacy, your courage, your continued fight. We need more people doing that. We're right here in Mount Hope, as the governor stated, and I also thank the governor for taking this necessary step. I grew up. That's right. That's right. I thank the governor for the necessary step because I grew up in Providence. I went through the Providence Public Schools from pre-K until I graduated from high school, from Mount Pleasant High School. And I continuously saw the word plantation. And Faith spoke about including Black history in our studies. I thank you for that. Faith, not only do you make me proud to be a graduate of PPSD, but you make me proud to be a Black woman.
Yes.
Proud. I went to the march. I had to step back and watch so many young people come together demanding for equity, demanding for justice, demanding to be seen and not be silenced. I thank you. I thank you for your courage. And do not let anyone silence you. And you continue this work in that fight. It is meaningful and it doesn't end. So remember that. So thank you. I thank everyone, Senator Metz, and everyone who's here, who's been advocating and doing the work, all our state officials, our reps, our mayor, everyone, thank you. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. So I was gonna give a brief history about the settlement and how Providence got its name, the word plantation, but the governor briefly spoke about it. So I'll just move on to say that word plantation for the Black community, particularly the descendants of the enslaved people. The word is a reminder of a system ruled by domination and forced labor, brutality, torture, mutilation, imprisonment, and where people were stripped from their loved ones and sold like commodities. Scars so deep, it touches the bone. Burning flesh and strange fruit hanging with a stench so pungent it suffocates the air. It is a reminder of the exploitation of Black labor and Black bodies, even after slavery was abolished. On Friday, June 19th, we celebrated Juneteenth. Yes. To commemorate, and thanks to Ms. Helen Dukes, who resides right here in Mount Hope. Yes. Yes. To commemorate the liberation of the enslaved people. And you notice I don't use the word slavery, I use enslaved because these are people who were brought in chains to this country and were placed into slavery. In Galveston, Texas, on June 19th in 1865, over 2 years after Emancipation Proclamation. Yet, 155 years later, Black people in America are still fighting for freedom, equality, and justice. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, "The slave went free, stood a brief moment in the sun, then moved back again towards slavery. The systemic, institutional, interpersonal, and internalized racism and oppression that exists in our country and right here in our state continues to racialize people of color. We see it in racial inequities maintained by social structures, codified in discriminatory practices and policies that creates barriers after barriers for Black people, people of color, immigrants, the LGBTQ community, all those of minoritized groups, where bigotry and bias are displayed in words and actions and through race-based beliefs. Through the histories that we as a society continue to develop, we see the hindrance within our communities from true liberation. Because to enslave is not just an action that was later abolished, it has become a way of life, the norm. For centuries have been endured by the very people who helped build this nation while fighting for their own freedom. Life for the average Black folk in this great nation is unfortunately brutal. Absolutely. I can't walk out and when people see me, the first thing that they see is a Black woman. And I will be treated accordingly. We are the target because of the color of our skin, subject to repression, harsh punishments, and what we have been seeing, racial policing. Black people have been tied down to a land which my ancestors built, died for, nurtured, and cultivated, yet never reaping the fruits of their suffrage. Yes, Council President, I did come to this country at a very young age, at the age of 3. But even people from my country in Haiti, the first republic in the Western Hemisphere to completely abolish slavery, and then to go on and help Central and South American countries liberate themselves, where people fought in the Revolutionary War. Black folks from Haiti fought in the Revolutionary War so that Americans can see freedom. And yet, look how we're treated. We're seeing it every day in the media. We see it in the policies. However, we have begun to see the harvesting of the seeds that have been sowed, nurtured, and now ready to be picked. Our nation is coming together by various movements, led by young people like Faith.
Yes.
Not only demanding equality and opportunity, but also saying that promises are not enough, but taking the necessary steps to ensure that the dream comes to fruition. We are seeing it right now, and we are seeing that our young people will not stop by any means necessary. This marginalization and oppressive structures that have governed deportment and marginalized communities, that has also led to displacement and the creation of the Providence Charter, Hardscrabble, and Snowtown, 2 neighborhoods made up of Black residents, were violently attacked and torched down by white mobs in 1824 and 1831. As a result, the governor and the sheriff ordered the militia. It is then that the town council passed a charter that created the office of the mayor and made Providence and created Providence, finally, and was able to establish a police force. So, as you can see, all of what's happening now is all interconnected. The destruction of a Black community for us to create a city, to implement a police force that we see constantly is oppresses Black lives. It is all interconnected. Unfortunately, those communities were never built. Instead, the Black community was displaced to the South Side, Smith Hill, and right here in Mount Hope.
Right now.
Policies such as urban renewal and others that continued in the 1960s and displaced Black families and continue to displace Black families from Mount Hope right here. Lippet Hill, Randall Square, Benefit Street, forced communities to find housing elsewhere.
Right now.
And now,
Right now.
gentrification.
Right now. That's right.
I commend the governor and the mayor and the treasurer for taking this much needed, necessary steps that people before me and before many of us have been fighting for years. The community has been fighting to remove a word that serves as the reminder of the oppressive state of Black people in America. However, it's not enough. We need true investments in the Black community. We need affordable housing. We need quality schools, and for our state constitution to codify that so that if a child is not receiving a quality education, they can hold this state accountable.
We also need no-income housing.
That's right. We need unemployment opportunities. We need a system where your source of income will not deny you the right to housing. We need safe and clean rec centers and parks. Liberation is not just a word, but actions taken to truly emancipate those who have been systematically oppressed for centuries. Systematically oppressed for centuries. It's enough.
Enough.
Enough. I am tired.
Sick and tired.
I am sick and tired of being tired.
Yes.
Being Black in this country is not a trend. It comes with great responsibility. Because every time I walk out the door, I send my son out the door, I have to pray that he comes back alive. There was a shooting right here 2 weeks ago. There was another shooting a block away a week ago. I've been working with the Institute to try to connect with these young people so that they can find a new pathway. But why are they involved in these crimes? Because there's no jobs, a lack of opportunity, poor education. They were forgotten. 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 Growing up here, and the mayor spoke about it, you know, the oppressive systems. I'm a survivor of lead poison. For years, I had to get treatment at St. Joseph's Hospital. Poor zoning on the south side on Dartmouth Avenue. Every day or every weekend, we would wake up, there would be blood stains on our doorstep because there was a restaurant club in our yard. I relied on going to Pug Clinton Park, to the pool, for the free lunches. This is the reality of so many folks. So yes, we're moving towards progress. We're going to eliminate the word plantation because of a reminder of a system that has oppressed, that has killed, that has tortured, that has displaced. But we need to do more. And everyone has said it, no more studies. There's been studies. Listen, I could pull up the study around urban renewal for here and all these studies that were created. No more. We need action. Some of that money that came into our state, put it in a housing fund so that we can build an affordable housing opportunity right here in Mount Hope, which was historically a Black community. That has changed. And low-income housing, so that if you are underemployed or unemployed, you have the right to a safe, clean house, a home. Because again, all those things are interconnected. Housing, education, health, employment, all of those are connected because you could be homeless and you could find a job, but if you don't have an address to send in or send your information to, it won't go anywhere. So again, I thank you. I hope that we all can work together at the city and at the state level, and we can truly make Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream become a reality. Because the dream was okay as long as it stayed a dream. Now we're going to challenge the norm because our young people are saying that's not enough. It's time for action. So thank you everyone for being here.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Raimondo, for this opportunity. We are gathered here for intentionality. We recognize that change is persistent, change is constant, change is inevitable. But one thing we also recognize is that change does not come overnight. And we recognize that our forefathers have been here for over 400 years that have endured harshness, that have endured slavery. We know the stories. We recognize the history. But today we have a governor that has identified that action is happening. We have a governor that identified that this word Providence Plantation will no longer be on any letterhead in the state of Rhode Island. Now, I am not a Rhode Islander. I was born in Virginia. So I know where to go and where not to go. I learned the hard way. And they say it's better up north. No, but what I found out up north is that you don't know who to trust.
It's covert.
See, it's no different wherever you go. Once you're born black, you're always black. But one thing we have to recognize is that as our young people begin to challenge us, they are now the Joshua generation. We begin to understand that Moses took the children of Israel out of Egypt. He led them. And God blessed them. God blessed them in such a manner that they walked out with gold and silver of their neighbors. They didn't realize their blessing. An 11-day journey took them 40 years because they murmured and they complained. They didn't recognize what God had done for them. And so as a result, instead of taking an 11-day journey, it took them 40 years. But because of their disobedience, what happened was God said, enough is enough. Because you failed to obey me, because you failed to trust me, you will not enter the promised land. But what will happen, your children will go into the promised land. Not even Moses made it into the promised land. Because Moses, at a point, decided to do what he wanted to do instead of following God. So we are standing today saying that we have been given an opportunity. We recognize the governor's authority that she has taken. But it becomes our responsibility to fear God. It becomes our responsibility to understand and be obedient to the ways of God. I'm a firm believer that we stand on the promises of God. Not when we're in trouble, but when things are going good, God is still there. But we cannot forget God. And so we are not going to detain this time, but we are going to celebrate only for a moment. Because there is more work to be done. There is more commitment to be done. There is more of us to get engaged and involved in what we are supposed to do. Yes, we recognize our history. We recognize the things that we've gone through. We recognize it has been harsh. We recognize it's been tough. But we ain't had nothing like our forefathers and mothers. But what we have done is take advantage of what they bled, sweat, and died for. And we sat back and became complacent. So let's call it what it is. Yes, there is systematic racism. There are things that are not right. But what have we done to engage ourselves in our community? What have we done to be persistent in saying, I'm going to stand up for what is right, and I'm not going to tolerate it? But yet we have young people by the name of faith. The word says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But without faith, it is impossible to please God. And maybe faith is a symbolism of what we need to be doing. We need to be trusting in God. So I don't know what church you belong to. I don't know what your faith is. But I know that there is a higher calling. And we are not just here to be complacent. We're just not here to sit on our laurels. We are here. We are of action. We are people of action. Our governor has taken a step in regards to action. Our forefathers died. Our foremothers died, raped, killed. We know the history. But now we are the benefactors of progress moving forward. Progress is incremental steps. But that does not mean that we sit and watch faith. What we do, we join faith. We walk with faith. We hold up faith. When faith gets tired, we share with faith the rich history of our people. And so as we are gathered here today, we thank the governor for the stand that she has taken. We thank the governor for the action that she has taken. But now it's up to us. after this is over, the work still goes on. As a matter of fact, the work gets harder. When progress is being made, that is when the enemy comes and tries to stop us. And so as we stand, let us somehow get close to one another within a 6-foot distance so that we can close in prayer. Let us stand. Let us bow our heads. Most gracious God, we are here of different ethnicities, different faiths, but we recognize there is a higher being. We recognize that you are in control of all things. We recognize that you are the great conductor, the orchestrator of all good and perfect things. And Father, we recognize that your ways are not our ways, your thoughts are not our thoughts, and we don't understand why we have to go through what we go through. But much of what we go through is because we don't listen. We are disobedient. We want to do things our way. So Father, as progress continues to happen, let us hear what's inside and what you have seeded in us, greatness. And as Faith and other young people began to lead this great march, the Joshua generation, bless them, bless us, bless this state, bless our governor, bless her staff. But Father, do not let us forget that you are in control. This is our prayer. Let us all shout hallelujah.